Timeline 4, C.1700 to 2000. This timeline will give you an idea of what was happening in different parts of the world in the last 3 centuries and how people in different countries contributed to the making of our modern world. It will tell you about the slave trade in Africa and the establishment of the apartheid regime in South Africa, about social movements in Europe and the formation of nation states, about the expansion of imperial power and the processes of colonization, and about democratic and anti-colonial movements that swept through the world in the last century. It will also refer to some of the invention and the technological developments that are associated with modernity. As with all timelines, this one focuses on a few dates. There are others that are important. When you see a series of dates in a timeline, do not think that those are the only dates you need to know. Find out why different timelines focus on different types of dates and what this selection tells us. Dates: Africa, Europe. 1720 to 30, King Agaja of Dahomey. 1724 to 34, West Africa stopped slave trade. It was reintroduced in the 1740s. 1730 to 40, Carlos Linnaeus invents a taxonomic system to classify plants and animals. 1735. 1740 to 50, 1750 to 60, first outbreak of smallpox. 1755, brought by sailors in Cape Town, South Africa. 1760 to 70, 1770 to 80, peak of international slave trade. All the colonial powers are involved in it. Several 100,000 black Africans are taken across the Atlantic every year. As many as two-thirds die on board ship itself. Emilian Pugachev heads a peasant uprising 1773 to 75 that sweeps across Russia. 1780 to 90, beginning of the French Revolution. 1789. 1790 to 1800, 1800 to 10, Muhammad Ali rules Egypt. 1805 to 48, Egypt breaks away from Ottoman Empire. 1810 to 20, 1820 to 30, Liberia founded 1822 in West Africa as home for freed slaves. Louis Braille developed a system of finger reading. 1823, passenger trains introduced in England. 1825. 1830 to 40, Abdul Qadir leads Arab resistance. 1832 to 47, against French presence in Algeria. 1840 to 50, liberal and socialist movements in several European countries. 1848. 1850 to 60. Dates: Africa, Europe. 1860 to 70, Suez Canal, one of the most important trade routes in the world, opens. 1869, Russian serfs are freed. 1861. 1870 to 80, Germany and Italy emerged as unified nation states. 1880 to 90, beginning the European scramble of Africa. 1890 to 1900, making of the first film. 1895, the modern Olympics are held for the first time in Athens. 1896. 1900 to 1910, Mahatma Gandhi advocates Satyagraha to resist racist laws. 1906, 1910 to 20, South Africa introduced laws to reserve 87% of the land of whites. 1913, First World War. 1914 to 1918, the Russian Revolution of 1917. 1920 to 30, Turkey becomes a republic under Mustafa Kemal. 1923. 1930 to 40, first Trans-African Railway from Angola to Mozambique completed. 1931. Hitler captured power in Germany. 1933, Second World War. 1939 to 45. 1940 to 50, Afrikaner National Party wins power in South Africa. 1948, the policy of apartheid is put in place. Britain recognized Irish independence. 1949. 1950 to 60, Ghana is the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to become independent. 1957. Discovery of DNA. Russia launches the spacecraft Sputnik. 1957. 1960 to 70, Organization of African Unity founded. 1963. Protest movements in Europe. 1968. 1970 to 80. 1980 to 90, Mikhail Gorbachev, leader of the USSR. 1985, beginning of the World Wide Web. 1989. 1990 to 2000, Nelson Mandela freed in South Africa. 1990, process of dismantling apartheid begins. Scientists clone the ship Dolly. 1997, raising new debates about the limits of genetic engineering. Dates: Asia, South Asia. 1720 to 30, Guzin Trusu Zhang, the largest encyclopedia ever printed, commissioned by Kangxi, the Manchu ruler of China. 1730 to 40, 1740 to 50, Marathas extend control over northern India. 1750 to 60, Aoki Konoyo, Japanese scholar, compiles a Dutch-Japanese dictionary. 1758, Robert Clive defeats Sirajuddaulah, Nawab of Bengal, at Battle of Palashi. 1757. 1760 to 70, 1770 to 80, 1780 to 90, British export of opium from India to China expands dramatically. 1790 to 1800, Ranjit Singh found Sikh kingdom in Punjab. 1799. 1800 to 10, 1810 to 20, 1820 to 30, Japanese revolt against Dutch. 1825 to 30, practice of sati made illegal. 1829. 1830 to 40, Ottoman Sultan Abdulmajid started program of modernization. 1839. 1840 to 50, 1850 to 60, King Rama IV rules Thailand, opens the country to foreign trades. 1853. Railway and telegraph line introduced. 1853, the Great Revolt. 1857, 1860 to 70. French begins to occupy Indochina, Southeast Asia, 1862. 1870 to 80, opening of the first Japanese railway, Tokyo to Yokohama, 1872. Famine in the Deccan, southern India, 1876 to 78, over 5 million die. 1880 to 90, Britain annexes Burma, Myanmar, 1885-86. Foundation of Indian National Congress, 1885. 1890 to 1900. Dates: Asia, South Asia. 19 1900 to 10, Japanese Navy defeats Russian fleet, 1905. 1910 to 20, Balfour Declaration promises homeland for Jews in Palestine, 1917. 1920 to 30, Non-Cooperation Movement, 1921, launched by Mahatma Gandhi. E. V. Ramaswamy Naikar launches the Self-Respect Movement in Tamil Nadu. 1925, 1930 to 40, opening the British oil pipeline from Iraq to Syria. 1934, Alam Ara by Adrashur Irani. 1931 is the first Indian talkie. Berlin-Baghdad Railway linking Baghdad to Istanbul begins operation, 1940. 1940 to 50, USA drops atom bombs on Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. 1945, killing approximately 120,000 civilians. Many more were to die later through the effects of radiation. Formation of People's Republic of China. 1949, Quit India movement. 1942, India and Pakistan become independent. 1947. 1950 to 60, Bandak Conference. 1955, strengthen the non-allied movement. India becomes a republic. 1950. 1960 to 70, Arab leaders set up Palestine Liberation Organization to anti-Palestine's refugee in 1964. War in Vietnam, 1965 to 73. Sri Babu Bandar Naiki becomes the world's first woman Prime Minister, 1960. 1970 to 80, Shah of Iran is overthrown. Bangladesh emerged as the independent nation, 1971. 1980 to 90, mass demonstration for democracy in Tiananmen Square, Beijing, China, 1989. Early communion carbide pesticides plants in Bhopal, 1984, leads to one of the worst industrial disasters in history. Thousands die. 1990 to 2000, Gulf War between Iraq, Kuwait, and the USA. India and Pakistan conduct nuclear test, 1998. Dates: Americas, Australia or Pacific Island. 70-20 to 30, Portuguese introduced coffee in Brazil, 1727. Dutch navigator Roggeveen reaches Samoa Island and Easter Island in the Pacific, 1722. 1730 to 40, Stone Slave Rebellion led by a literate slave Jamie. 1739. 1740 to 50, Juan Santos, also called Atahualpa II, leads Native Americans of Peru in unsuccessful revolt, 1742. 1715, 1750 to 60, 1760 to 70, Chief Pontiac of Ottawa tribes leads protest against the British, 1763. First of Captain James Cook's three voyages to the Pacific, 1768 to 71, 1770 to 80, U.S. Declaration of Independence, 1776, 1780 to 90, U.S. Constitution drawn up, dollars first used as American currency, 1787, first British convict ship to Brittany Bay, Australia, 1788, 1790 to 1800, 1800 to 10, Matthew Plender circumnavigates then names Australia. It means southern. 1801 to 3, 1010 to 20, 1020 to 30, Simon Bolivar leads Venezuela to independence, 1821. 1830 to 40, Trails of Tears in the USA. Thousands of Eastern Native Americans are forced to move west, many dying on the way. 1838, Charles Darwin sets out on voyages to the Pacific, Galapagos Island, 1831, leading to the development of the theory of evolution. 1840 to 50, meeting in Seneca Falls, New York, calls for equal rights for American women. 1848, British and Maoris in New Zealand signed Treaty of Waitangi, 1840. This was followed by a series of Maori uprisings, 1844 to 88, 1850 to 60, beginning of the first regular steamship service between Australia and England, 1856. Dates: Americas, Australia or Pacific Island, 1860 to 70. Civil War in USA, 1861 to 65. 13 amended to the Constitution outlaws slavery. Transportation of prisoners to Australia from Britain ends, 1868. 1870 to 80. Invention of telephone, record player, electric bulb, 1880 to 90. Invention of Coca-Cola, 1886. 1890 to 1900. Voting rights for Oman in New Zealand. 1900 to 1910. Wright's brother invent the aeroplane. 1903. 1910 to 1920. Henry Ford begins assembly line production of cars. 1913, Panama Canal linking the Atlantic and Pacific opened. 1914, influenza epidemic kills one-fifth of population of West Samoa. 1918, 1920 to 30, U.S. Wall Street Stock Exchange crashes. 1929, Great Depression follows. By 1932, 12 million are out of work. Uprising of Mau people of Samoa against New Zealand government, 1929. 1930 to 40, 1940 to 50, the US enters Second World War. 1950 to 60, Fidel Castro comes to power after the Cuban Revolution. 1958. 1960 to 70, Civil Rights Movement in the USA. 1963, US Civil Rights Act. 1964, bans racial discrimination. Civil rights leader Martin Luther King is assassinated. 1968, US astronauts land on the moon. 1969, 1970 to 80, US Congress passes Equal Opportunity Act in response to women's movement. 1972, Tonga and Fiji gain independence from Britain. 1917, Papua New Guinea gains independence from Australia. 1975, 1980 to 90, New Zealand declared nuclear free zone. 1984, Treaty of Rarotonga sets up South Pacific Nuclear Free Zone. 1986. 1990 to 2000, activity. If you compare the four timelines given in the book, you will find that the chronological reference period in the left-hand column differ. Can you think of the reasons for this? Try and design a timeline for your own, giving reasons for your selection. Comment this.